Indiana secures an 89-80 win over Wright State. I say secured a win because I think that's the most apt way to describe how this win was acquired. They secured it. I don't know that they necessarily did much to secure it, but in the end, it was secured. It was firmly in the Hoosiers' hands, and they can go home happy with a 9-point non-cover win at home against an 0-3 Wright State team without their leading scorer, Trey Calvin, who scores 27 points a game. Where do you want to start with this? I think Indiana is horrible. I think they're horrible at basketball.
Yeah, I don't know where to exactly start on this, so I guess I'll just kind of dive right into it, and I'll give this little disclaimer right here. For any people who are going to get mad about what we say, I honestly can't think that if you actually watch that game that was just played, you can come away thinking anything positively about your basketball team. Truly, through 3 games of the season, Indiana's defense as a whole has been a mess, to be quite frank. And honestly, their offense has been a mess, to be frank, as well. But today, they finally get off the offensive schneid, and still the defensive issues just continue, especially on the perimeter. Now, they're actually pretty good defensively at the rim just because everyone's scared to shoot because kel'el Ware's in the middle, which they should be because he's been blocking shots and altering shots left and right. But the defensive switching, the lack of ball pressure by the backcourt and the wings is just terrible. You had a guy on Wright State today who has scored 0 points coming to the season, or up for I think 7 or 8 threes and 20 something points. It's just and a lot of it is just breakdowns, just not putting on pressure on shooters, not switching correctly, not getting over screens, just really kind of elementary level basketball principles just aren't being done right now defensively. And that's how you give up 80 points to a Wright State team who has not been offensively that great. And like you mentioned, is missing one of the best scorers in the country in Austin. So I don't know. We did the episode the other day that, what level of concern are you for Indiana? I'd be at a 5 right now. I really would. I would be seriously concerned about this team defensively.
Are we back to the numbers? That not an elevated or whatever it was?
I already forgot what 5 was. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I forgot. You know what, Carter? If you don't mind, I'd like to have a quick moment with my friends from Bloomington. Because I want to read some of my mentions. Of course, I like to try and analyze what I see in real time. You know this, right? Like, I'm no stranger to a sarcastic tweet every now and then. It's believe it or not, I don't just choose like certain fan bases to antagonize. Like, I was making fun of Amadi Sissoko, Tom Izzo tweet earlier today. I've made fun of Illinois plenty of times. I've made fun of my own team plenty of times. People that don't follow me might not know that. But you would think from the Indiana fans in my mentions that I'm just like a Purdue fan, Indiana troll account. Because I tweeted out, I'm going to read my tweet word for word. I said, you can watch bad basketball teams, and usually you can pick out something to point to that they do well. Like, some bad teams can shoot, or some play hard, or some guard well, or some won't turn it over. I have no idea what Indiana basketball does well. That was a tweet from me. And then I quote tweeted it with finding out on KenPom they're number 1 in the country in opposing teams' free throw percentage. That's the best thing that Indiana does. Teams are shooting like 30% from free throw against Indiana. I stand by this. I get that Indiana has a monster front court. In the offseason, we said there was a chance it could be the best front court in the country. I agreed with that. There's a bunch of talent there. They're good inside. They're definitely good inside. I think they're 11th in the country in 2-point field goal percentage coming into this game. They feasted inside tonight. Wright State gives up a bunch of easy looks at the rim. We knew that, and Indiana took advantage. That said, I still don't think they do anything well. Like, I'm not going to term like your 7-foot center being able to make unguarded dunks doing something well. Indiana doesn't even run stuff to get good looks from that. It's just like a jumbled mess. Throw the ball to whatever center they want, that given possession, and that guy makes a play. That's not doing anything well. That's just like, okay, you have a little talent. This is horrendous to me. It's horrendous basketball. And like I said, I want to have a moment with Hoosier fans, specifically a couple. I had Zach Smithy 4 say, I've never seen a team picked to finish 5th to 8th in their conference get this much criticism this early in the season at 3-0. Just say you're using the Indiana name for clicks and move on. Then I had Luke Kennard, Luke K 44 numbers, say, I mean, just tell us you haven't watched a game. Very flawed team to start the season, but clearly we'll be able to score inside with Where-Renault. This goes out to you, Luke and Zach. Sit back, relax, crack a cold one with me, boys. Because your team is cooked. Your team is done. Stick a fork in them, boys. You don't need to watch another game this season. Indiana is not going to play competitive basketball against any team with a pulse. Quite frankly, they haven't played against teams without a pulse and played well. This was horrendous tonight. If they showed up and played even their C game for how talented Indiana is, they win this game by 25 to 30 points. Instead, they let a guy who has barely scored all season.
No, Greg, not barely. He had 0 points coming into this game on the season. 0.
Yeah, I mean, the guy hit 7 threes in this game, Carter. I can't process, and it wasn't even like, obviously the guy played well. He was wide open.
Yeah, they weren't. No,
they left him wide open.
Like I said, they weren't. There was no heat checks in this. They were just helping off of him, leaving him. Like I said, making elementary level basketball errors on the defense. It was actually baffling to watch. It truly was.
Yeah, Mackenzie Mbako just left him wide open. And apparently Mackenzie Mbako is just not going to play in crunch time for this team. I'm sure he's thrilled with that.
I mean, you can't, though. You literally can't.
Yeah, I don't know what to do. And okay, so you benched him for Gabe Cupps. Was Gabe Cupps great tonight? 0 points and 1 assist in 18 minutes with 1 shot attempt. What are you getting there? You're getting nothing. So, I'm so like, I was anti this team in the offseason. I said they're going to miss the tournament. I saw disaster potential. I'm not even trying to victory lap on it right now. I just think this is worse than I thought. Like, I thought Indiana would hammer Wright State without their only good scorer. No disrespect to Tanner Holden. And instead, Indiana looks way more lifeless than I thought. Indiana fans can try and play this off like it's a 9-point win. We're 3-0. You're not being serious as a basketball fan if that's what you interpret your team as after this performance.
Right. And you know, we talked a lot about defense and playing this Wright State team coming into the game. For those who don't know, Wright State can't check anybody. They do not check anybody. I believe they gave up. It might have been in a secret scrimmage, or I'm not really sure, or a real game. I got to go back and look. But I believe they gave 100-something points to Colorado State. Like, this team does not pride themselves on the defensive end. This was a game that they should have dominated and got 89 points. Honestly, they probably could have got more. But they even have offensive issues in my eyes. Like, there was a certain time that I wrote down actually in my phone. It was kind of towards the end of or in the middle of the second half, kind of towards the end of the second half. And they started getting things going, actually, just throwing it into Renault. They threw it into him 2 times. He got 2 straight hooks, 2 straight scores. Next time down the floor, throw it back into him. Instead, we're getting Anthony Walker contested step. Like, we're just getting all types of dysfunctional shots coming from players that shouldn't be taking certain shots. It's like when Patrick Ewing's like, why are you taking that shot? Do you practice that shot? Like, it just seemed like they take a lot of those shots. And even Mike Woodson towards the end of the game, before Xavier Johnson unfortunately turned his ankle a little bit at the end, he's looking at his 6-year point guard and he's telling him when he needs to shoot. And the ball's not moving out of the post. It's just, I don't know. If I'm watching this Indiana team and you're game planning for this Indiana team, you double Ware, you double the post. And out of the post, I don't think the guards are making enough plays, and the ball seems to stick after they pass it out of the post. It was just, in a game you score 89 points, you think you feel good about it offensively, and I think a lot of that happened in like the first 15 minutes of the game. But all in all, just there were some offensive issues as well. I would actually be very interested to talk to an Indiana fan about this game and actually get their actual thoughts on it, because I don't think, like you said, anybody who's serious about Indiana basketball and serious about their team feels any type of great or good or even okay about this win.
Yeah, I think Mike Woodson should be embarrassed. That's where I'm at. I think his most notable moment in this game was the sequence he talked about where he's yelling at Xavier Johnson. And if you watch the next 6, not even minutes, sorry, the next 60 seconds, after the sequence where he takes the timeout to yell at Xavier Johnson to shoot the ball.
He drives in there again.
Very next possession, Xavier just ignores him, and Mike Woodson does nothing. So listen, man, he had a press on, which I loved as an Indiana bettor. I'm like, oh shit, let's press, force turnover here. But they're up 6 points, or not 6 points. They're up 9 points for like the entire final 6 minutes of this game. And like with 2 minutes left, up 11, up 9, Mike Woodson has a full court press on, and his point guard turns his ankle, and it looks horrible. Why are you pressing up 11 with a minute left? What are you doing? Why do you have your starting point guard in a press up 11 against Wright State? You have no guard depth. You didn't get a guard in the offseason. You totally mismanaged how you needed to do things with this roster. Now you're stuck with it in a spot where you can't even play your McDonald's All-American in crunch time. And your solution is to full court press with Xavier Johnson against, again, Wright State, who's 0-3. Like, it's just, he deserves what he's getting at this point. I thought it was an embarrassing performance as he cussed out his point guard. And I don't know what you do with it, man. They got out-rebounded. For all this talk about how beastly this front court is, why did they get out-rebounded by Wright State tonight?
Right. I don't get it either. And just to be honest, and I know this isn't going to go over well, Ware has played well. Don't get me wrong. Up until this point, he should be putting the numbers he is up against teams like this and up against guys like this. But just be a little bit, no pun intended, a little wary about this. I love to see him play a true big, a big with not even a true big, a big with a pulse. Because up until this point, I don't think he's done that. Now, credit to him for dominating in these games like he is. But I'm just saying, just make sure you keep an eye on it, because I'd love to see what he looks like against, I would even say a great big, just a solid big, because I don't even think he's played one up until this point.
Okay. I mean, the one positive I had written down from watching every minute of this game that I did want to talk about goes in conflict with what you just said. I do think kel'el has been incredible.
I'm saying the thing is, though, I'm saying he has been incredible. G, like I'm giving him that credit. I think he should be incredible against these guys. I think he's that talented. He should be doing that. The fact that he is doing it, I don't want to shortchange him, but at the same time, I don't think he has played. I don't think he's played a solid big up until this point.
That's fine. He's still 9 for 11 in back-to-back games from 2-point range. He didn't attempt a three against Wright State or Army. Everybody's talking about, oh, he floats to the perimeter. He takes dumb shots. He hasn't attempted a three in 2 games. He's 18 for 22 from 2-point range. Like, to me, that shows a guy who's mentally disciplined enough against bad defenses to show up and be the elite talent that he is. And that was the criticism. The criticism wasn't of his talent. The criticism is he spacey? Does he take basketball serious? Is he going to float? No, he's not floating right now. He's dominating in the front court to the point that Malik Renault's playing on the perimeter. Like, which is my problem here, because Malik Renault has no perimeter skill set whatsoever. I mean, he took a three-pointer late in the shot clock, late in this game. Like, they literally, I think 6 times in this game, they threw an outlet pass on the break to Malik Renault. Like, the team thinks they're supposed to do this, and maybe they are. Maybe Mike Woodson's telling them to do this, which, again, is why he should be embarrassed. This roster is such a joke. He did not go get any guards whatsoever. Like, that is horrific. He banked it all on Xavier Johnson, and I feel bad for Xavier Johnson right now. Xavier Johnson has to do way more than he's capable of, and there's no other answers. You turn to Trey Galloway? I know you're turning to Gabe Cupps in crunch time, Mr. 0-1 tonight. This team's horrendous, and we're not even talking about any of the body language stuff, which to me hung over this team the first 2 games. I thought it was better tonight. Still wasn't good. Like, this team has no positive vibes whatsoever on the court or off of it. And I said before the season it was disaster potential. I think the disaster has already began. I think this team screams last year's Ohio State team. Like, you know how it took till December for everybody to realize Ohio State's a bad basketball team? We know November 16th that Indiana's done. That's where I'm at with this team. There is no turnaround for this team.
Indiana is a bad basketball team.
It is what it is.
And they got the defending champs Sunday, and that's going to get nasty.
What line would you need to bet Indiana to cover in that game against UConn?
You know, you're really putting me in a bad spot asking me to handicap something, but like I would bet it up to like 15, 16. Like I think Indiana's bad.
I mean, I think they might be favored by 15. If I'm handicapping this game on a neutral court, I would probably cap it at UConn minus 13 or 14. And if Vegas comes underneath that, I'm all over UConn.
You think there's any world we get UConn single digits?
No, I don't.
Okay.
If we do, we're gonna have a conversation about. We might need to make an investment on behalf of Sleepers Media if that opportunity comes open. All right, tough one. Who's your fan? Sorry, I'm sure we're gonna get a bunch of shit for our thoughts here, but hey, play better. If your team plays,
Yeah, like that. That was bad. Sorry.
your team plays better, we'll talk about it. At the very least, you have plenty of matchups with top 10 player in the Big Ten, Zed Key, to look forward to later this season. It should be very exciting.